Tonight, random COVID testing at airports is being temporarily suspended as the federal government moves to alleviate the long delays.
It's just a mess in there, and the queues are a mess. They just can't get through.
Vaccinated travelers at Pearson Airport will no longer be subject to random COVID testing for at least the next few weeks, a move that Ottawa says will help ease wait times. Plus,
and now travelers are choosing, trips that are a little closer to them.
Gas prices continue to soar, and that's affecting some people's summer plans and that road trip they're planning. Plus,
this caused me real alarm because the city has a rule.
The city is coming under fire for awarding $1 million worth in contracts to private security firms to patrol parks and prevent encampments, a move one councillor says council was never consulted on. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Well, there may be some relief on the way for frustrated air travelers. The federal government says it's putting a pause on random arrival testing for COVID-19. There's been a lot of pressure on Ottawa lately to tackle the long delays at airports. But as Dale Manukduk reports, some are skeptical whether this move will solve the problem.
For the thousands of travelers jetting off for summer vacation, they will no longer be subject to mandatory randomized COVID-19 testing. The federal government hopes that it will ease delays for people arriving in Canada.
We can't have this huge amount of people stuck in the airplanes and can't get in here.
I mean, you've just come back, you're tired, you should be able to go home.
This temporary suspension takes effect tomorrow, June 11th, and will run until the end of the month. In a joint statement, the Ministers of Transport, Health, Public Safety and Tourism say we recognize that there is still work to be done, particularly for international arrivals at our largest airports, and we will continue to work with all orders of government and partners to reduce the delays in the travel system.
Reduce the delays 5%, 10%. I'm not sure. It's going to be a question of looking at, what else is going on and how complex the remaining procedures are. It's a step in the right direction.
Hour and 45 minutes in customs.
But for those experiencing the delays, they say randomized testing isn't the problem. It's the lack of staff at customs.
Not enough customs officers on duty. It's just a mess in there, and the queues are a mess. They just can't get through.
I counted probably 6 customs workers working for a line of like 300 people, I would estimate, 200 people. So it was really bad.
The Greater Toronto Airports Authority says 2,700 flights were delayed because of customs delays last month, compared to 4 in May of 2019. Almost 500,000 passengers were delayed in the last month alone.
I'm not sure it's really going to solve the big problem, which is really the ArriveCAN app and the CBSA times required to make sure everybody's adhering to the regulations in the ArriveCAN app.
Now, the Greater Toronto Airports Authority says that international flights arriving here at Pearson will increase by some 50% over the coming days as airlines ramp up their summer schedules. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
The U.S., meanwhile, is dropping one of its last mandates aimed at stopping the spread of COVID-19. Starting this Sunday, international travelers bound for the States will no longer be required to take a COVID test within 24 hours of their flight. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the test is no longer necessary. Officials will reevaluate the need for the testing mandate every 90 days. They say it could be reinstated if new COVID variants appear. Canadians aren't just fed up with airport delays. For some, the stress is at passport offices. Delays there have many worry they won't be able to travel at all. Stephen D'Souza looks at just how bad the backlog is.
Before many Canadians can take off, first they have to pack for the sidewalk.
A winter coat, chairs, we have some snacks in the bag.
Ahmed Zakri arrived at 3:30 this morning, 5 hours before this Toronto passport office opened. In late July, he's hoping to visit family in Egypt after 6 long years.
I'm freaking out a bit. I'm trying to keep it under control, but yeah.
You need a trip booked to line up without an appointment.
How long are you traveling next 45 business days?
Mail-in applications take more than 9 weeks to process. The promise here is 2 weeks. Vicky Loberg, though, applied in person in March.
It's ridiculous. I go by the rules and I'm stuck.
In 2 weeks, she wants to be with her pregnant daughter in Ireland.
I didn't get to see her get married. I didn't get to see the first child, and now this is the second, and I really need to get there.
The government says passport demand is unprecedented. Back in 2020, demand was low. The following year, it tripled and could triple again this year.
Is 9 weeks plus an acceptable timeline for this most basic of government services?
This is something that's happening around the world, but we're putting additional resources in place to deal with it here in Canada.
A proof of travel?
Service Canada workers say they warned the government this was coming.
We've had physical violence. We've had computer monitors thrown at our members.
And they warn hiring new staff isn't a quick fix.
Even just hiring people now isn't going to make much of an impact for the next several months.
Meanwhile, for an extra $20, Ahmed Zakri was told he'll have his passport in 2 weeks.
Getting here so early paid off because in the end it was just 5 minutes and we were done.
At least he hopes he's done and won't have to return to the sidewalk. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, Toronto.
For the many who are planning road trips, the price at the pumps is factoring into plans. Gas prices are expected to reach another record high this weekend with no relief in sight. Ali Chiasson has more on what this could mean for summer road trips and businesses that depend on visitors swinging through.
Pain at the pumps.
Everyday prices going up and up, right?
Back then, $50 used to be a full tank for this car, but now it's around $80.
Gas prices have been soaring. The average right now is $2.10 in Toronto, $2.08 in York and Peel region. It's expected to spike even higher by the end of this weekend.
It's too expensive and I can't make ends meet.
It doesn't only affect our wallets, but our behaviors and patterns too.
It's going to limit how many trips people are taking and how far they're willing to go. Are they going to be willing to drive from Toronto to Parry Sound, where they may just go to Orillia?
And that means businesses in small towns that rely on road trippers could really take a hit after already suffering losses during the pandemic.
It's going to make the recovery much slower. And people always think about the Hiltons and Marriotts, where the vast majority of hospitality businesses are actually small businesses.
What about when your entire business model is road trips?
We're actually up 400% from last year.
The folks at Guess Where Road Trips say people are just more thrifty about it. For example,
carpooling. I find, travelers still want to get out, but they're a lot more careful with making sure that they can bring some people along the way so they can split on gas. And now travelers are choosing, trips that are a little closer to them. So it might be 20 minutes to get there instead of 2 hours, which definitely makes a huge difference in terms of gas price.
A staycation may be more justifiable these days, and the province is even incentivizing it. Residents can claim 20% of their accommodation expenses for their trips within Ontario this year. So here's a tip for your next trip.
Make it an overnight, and then when you do your taxes, you can get up to $400 back, and that kind of minimizes, that increase in gas and what the difference in gas.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
It'll be a busy weekend in the city with lots of festivals and special events. So a message to drivers to expect some gridlock on the roads. Both the Ride to Conquer Cancer and the Grilled Cheese Challenge are happening tomorrow morning. That means large sections of Lakeshore West will be closed down. On Queen's Park Crescent, both the Run for Women and Word on the Street Festival are happening this weekend. So expect closures there on both Saturday and Sunday. Adding to the mix, roadwork, GO cancellations, and a partial shutdown of TTC's Line 1 between Lawrence and St. Clair. It could be a headache to get around this weekend. We have a full list of transit and road closures to help you plan ahead. Go to cbc.ca/Toronto. All right, let's go to Dahlia Ashry now with a first look at your forecast. And Dahlia, it was a beautiful sunny day to end the work week. Unfortunately, won't be the same tomorrow. Those heading out should make sure to grab their umbrellas.
That's right, Kelda. It's going to be a bit of a damp one, and that's why you want to prepare your umbrellas heading into the weekend, because it's going to be a damp one, like you mentioned. And there is that dry commute, though, coming around the corner on Monday. But let's look at the daytime highs for earlier today. It was 23 degrees, winds are 23 as well. The cool spot is Kingston for today's daytime highs. Now, as you can see, that precipitation hasn't made its way in yet. We're just seeing those clouds peeking through, but as we head into Saturday at 1 p.m., you start to see a little bit of that precipitation activity starting to kick in. and that goes on until 6 p.m. as well. And then we see most of it coming in on Sunday, and we'll have more on how that will look later on as we head into the newscast. Overnight tonight, 14 degrees, partially cloudy, and tomorrow afternoon, some chance of showers, 23 degrees. So like I said, have those umbrellas ready because you're going to need them for the weekend.
All right, thanks so much, Dahlia. Canada added nearly 40,000 jobs last month, pushing down the unemployment rate to a record low. The jobless rate of 5.1% is the lowest since record-keeping started in 1976. The month of May saw a strong growth with 135,000 people finding full-time work. But those big gains were offset by a drop in part-time positions by 96,000. The overall high demand for workers is also pushing up wages. Statistics Canada says the average hourly wage rose nearly 4% in May compared to the same time last year. Canada plans to become the first country in the world to print warnings on individual cigarettes. Addictions Minister Carolyn Bennett says the new messaging is intended to reach more people.
Adding health warnings on individual tobacco products will help ensure that these essential messages reach people, including the youth, who often access cigarettes one at a time in social situations, sidestepping the information printed on a package.
The new regulations will also expand warnings on cigarette packages to show a longer list of the health effects of smoking, and will also include new photos. Canada has required graphic images on packages for the past 20 years, but the pictures have not been updated in a decade. A 75-day consultation period will begin tomorrow, with changes expected to come into force later next year. The City of Toronto is coming under fire for awarding 2 contracts worth $1 million in total to private security firms to patrol parks and prevent encampments. Now, according to one city councillor, the contracts were awarded without proper council approval. Farah Morali has more.
It's been nearly a year since the city and police removed people living in this encampment at Lamport Stadium. Since then, the question of round-the-clock security at parks has been a controversial one.
CBC News first broke the story last month that the city had issued a request for proposals for contracted security in a handful of parks. That was to prevent homeless residents from setting up more encampments. It was a subject of a lot of debate at council last month, but as it turns out, 2 contracts had already been awarded.
In an emailed response, the city confirmed it signed contracts with Logic Security and Valguard Security for $500,000 each. Back in April, it said they are temporary contracts to provide security until the RFP is awarded.
This caused me real alarm.
Councillor Gord Perks claims council was never notified and questions whether staff used a loophole to avoid disclosing the contracts.
And the city has a rule that city staff can only contract out contract for $500,000 sole source without coming to council. And by putting 2 contracts side by side at exactly that limit, they're doing what I call contract splitting, which gets around the rules.
The city claims staff was transparent, telling CBC it detailed its plans in a June 2021 ready on contract, but they weren't available.
There's been a lot of secrecy around how encampments are being supported or dealt with.
This advocate says what homeless residents need isn't security, it's social workers, and the money can be better spent elsewhere.
We're living in a city where we have a budget shortfall of $815 million. We're already short a lot of funding for basic services, including park maintenance, opening the water fountains. So why are we allocating funding to hurt people, our most vulnerable residents, at the cost of quality of life?
Today, John Tory defended city staff and the decision to maintain security in parks.
The interim arrangements were done following the rules.
The temporary contracts continue until the end of September, while the city reviews submissions for a more permanent security contract. Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Next week, FIFA is set to announce the host cities for the 2026 World Cup, which will be held jointly in Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. As Greg Ross reports, insiders say Toronto is a lock to host some of the games.
The official announcement hasn't come yet, but of course we put in an excellent bid.
If Mayor Tory has any inside information about the 2026 World Cup announcement next week, he wasn't tipping his hand today. But he did say it would be a perfect opportunity to show off the city to the world.
I think we'll do a great job and show the world what this very special city is all about and how we live here together, all people from all over the world, and we embrace each other and celebrate each other and see some great soccer at the same time.
It would definitely bring global attention to the city.
We're talking about the biggest sporting event on the planet.
Soccer writer John Molinaro says he wouldn't be surprised to see as many as 5 World Cup games played in Toronto in 2026, and he says that could attract tens of thousands of people to the city and millions of dollars.
They need hotels and they need places to eat and they need, places to kill time in between the games. So yeah, this is going to be, a pretty big boon financially for Toronto.
He says Toronto would likely host the group stage, which are early round games, and the plan is to play them at BMO Field, which will first need a bit of a facelift.
For FIFA World Cup games, for group stage games, FIFA has a minimum requirement that the stadiums have to be at least 40,000.
BMO currently has a capacity of 30,000, but it has been expanded before, using temporary seating for events like the Grey Cup and the NHL Centennial Classic in 2016. Molinaro says it's possible this time we could see new permanent seats added.
The thing about BMO Field is that there is sort of room there to expand.
The stadium is not the only thing that could be growing. The World Cup would do wonders for the game itself in the GTA.
We're building a football nation.
Johnny Misley is the CEO of Ontario Soccer. He says the sport already got a big boost after Canada qualified for this year's World Cup. Hosting could take soccer to a new level in the GTA.
We have plans in place to harness that momentum, to help convert that into player registrations, recruitment of new volunteers, new coaches.
The official announcement is scheduled for next Thursday. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Justin Bieber says he had to cancel concerts this week because he had facial paralysis caused by Ramsay-Hunt syndrome.
As you can see, this eye is not blinking. I can't smile on this side of my face. This nostril will not move. So there's full paralysis in this side of my face. So for those who are frustrated by my cancellations of the next shows, I'm just physically, obviously not capable of doing them. This is pretty serious, as you can see.
He says a virus in his ear caused a temporary paralysis of the right side of his face. On Tuesday, Bieber canceled shows scheduled at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. A concert in Washington that was supposed to go this evening was also put off. There's no word yet on whether they will be rescheduled. Richard Tickleman was among several musicians to take to the stage in Toronto during Canadian Music Week.
Being able to let loose in front of a crowd, and not only that, let them let loose for a few minutes or an hour or what have you, and that was just truly surreal.
The week-long conference saw a series of panels and live performances, all dedicated to growing Canada's music industry, which took a big hit during the pandemic. Mayor John Tory says the industry bouncing back is a key part of the city's economic recovery.
There's no question that music and live events are a big part of why people come here in the summer in particular. And we've had in past years 44 million visitors coming to the city of Toronto. And I'm pleased to tell you that, for example, just as another indicator of the fact that things are changing, hotel occupancy last week was up to 70%.
According to the city, live music venues in Toronto typically generate an economic impact of $850 million a year. And you are looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline. Partly cloudy tonight. The cloud cover will remain overnight with some showers on the way. Currently 18 degrees in downtown Toronto. Let's go back to Dahlia now with a detailed look at your forecast. And Dahlia, we got to enjoy the sunshine today, but tomorrow a different story.
That's right, Kelda. Today was beautiful, dry conditions, sunny as we head into the weekend, not so much. And there's a lot of festivals happening. So how you're going to enjoy that, I'm not sure. Maybe take some turns here and there, or maybe go to the ROM where it's more so indoors. You'll find the way. You'll make it happen. Have your umbrellas ready. It's going to be a damp weekend, and Monday I'll have some good news, but we'll get to that in a second. First of all, today's daytime highs earlier were 23 degrees. Windsor 23 as well. The cooler spot is Kingston for today's daytime highs. Now let's take a look at the precipitation. Right now, there's not really much happening as we head into Saturday, 8 a.m. You see a little bit of that green spot right there? That's the rain starting to kick in, and it'll get stronger as we head into Saturday at 1 p.m. But it's not so bad. There's a little bit of overcast, but Sunday, 5 a.m., that's where we see a lot of that activity. It's going to be heavy rainfall for most of the day, and that's going to go in until 1 o'clock. It starts to get a little lighter, a little bit of clearing right there. Sunday, 8 p.m., it clears overnight. And as we head into Monday, I'll tell you how that's going to look in just a second. Overnight tonight, 14 degrees, partially cloudy. Tomorrow afternoon, we're going to see that rainfall that we were talking about, 23 degrees, 40% chance of showers. And as you see overnight tonight, we are going to have 14 degrees, partially cloudy. Mississauga, 13 degrees, a bit of a cooler night. St. Catharines, 13 degrees. Same thing in Oshawa, 12 degrees, a bit of a cooler night. Saturday, 23 degrees, low 14. Sunday, that wet condition again that we were talking about. 80% chance of rain, low 14. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, look at all that sunshine. What a great way to kick off the week. And by the end of the week, it's actually starting to feel a little bit like summer there, but that sunshine coming through on Monday, what a great way to have a dry commute and enjoy the start of your work week.
Sounds great. At the Royal Ontario Museum today, an exhibit that celebrates the wonders of the animal world and how it inspired the mythical creatures from the wizarding world.
It's where the two worlds collide, and so in this exhibition we wanted to tell stories of fantastic beasts but also real-world creatures. So in the labelling we've tried to identify where it's an original specimen or where it's a Wizarding World fantastic beast. But the visitors, they like to make their own interpretation, create their own stories, don't they?
The exhibit was created by Warner Brothers and the London Natural History Museum to juxtapose animal species with the magical creatures of the Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts series. It also shows the scientific similarities between the two and explores species facing extinction. Organizers say the exhibit will help visitors discover how animals from the natural world are just as extraordinary as the imaginary ones. It opens tomorrow and runs until January of next year. And that's our show for you tonight and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. Shannon Martin has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. Have a great weekend, everyone.